Welcome back to another Film Geek movie review. In just a bit, I am headed out the door to go check out the new movie, The Crow. So what's the plot of this film? Well, it tells the story of Eric and Shelley, two lovers that one night are attacked by some bad guys and they are both killed. But Eric decides, you know what, I'm coming back from the afterlife and I'm going to avenge Shelley's death and kill all of those people that wronged us. This film is based off of a comic book of the same name written by James O'Barr. And there also was a movie back in the 90s based off of the comic book too. So this is kind of a weird gray area, okay? So is this movie a remake of the 90s film, or is it a different interpretation of the comic book? And I'm really hoping it's more of the interpretation of the comic book, because The Crow film is one of my all-time favorite movies. I loved that movie. I don't even remember how many times I saw that film in theaters. It's really one of my favorite movies ever made. I don't know where it fits on the list or anything like that, but it's one of those films that I can sit down and watch over and over again and never lose any enjoyment whatsoever. I have quotes from it I memorized. This film, I remember back in the day, literally made friends of mine goth. Okay? So it was a very impactful film for its time. So I'm hoping, fingers crossed, that we have ourselves another film like that. Another impactful film for the new generation. A Crow for the kids of today. So you know what? It's enough of me sitting here yammering on. It is time for me to get out the door because I gotta go see The Crow. Well, that was a movie. Alright guys, let's get this started, shall we? We're going to get things started with the negatives, then move into the positives to end the video on the ever so important high note. Unfortunately, there's not going to be a lot of high notes with this one, guys, because I really did not like this movie. I didn't find a lot of good high notes with this film. Okay, so let's get this started. The first thing I want to talk about is the pacing of this film. The first and second act of this movie move along so freaking slow, and both of the acts are completely pointless. None of them deliver what we want from this film. In the first act, we have a completely pointless love story. Now, I don't want to compare the films, but I'm gonna. In the first movie, we don't even get that much time with Eric and his girlfriend because they're killed off pretty quickly. But in that small moment of time, we get a real good feeling that these two really care and love each other. And then bad shit happens. In this movie, they decide that we're going to show the romance, but they give no frame for time whatsoever. So it shows in the trailer, okay, they're in a, let's just say, a facility together. That's how they meet, in this facility. And then once they are out of the facility, it's just like they shack up together. And like what I said, there is absolutely no idea on what time frame this is. Was this just a matter of days? Was this months? Was it years that these two were living together, falling in love, and building this deep romance? Who knows? The film doesn't give you any idea how long this has been going on. And then we get to the second act. And this is the point after our two lovers have had their love story. And again, it's in the trailer. We know that the two of them are going to die, even though it takes for freaking ever to get there. Then they die, and the Crow is born. This is the second act. But no, he's not quite the Crow yet, okay? He's just Bill Skarsgård getting his ass kicked constantly. There's a few decent scenes during that point of action that has some pretty neat sequences and all, but I wouldn't call it like really good fight sequences. They were just kind of good action sequences. And then we get to the third act, and all of a sudden, oh, he's finally the Crow. He's going after the big baddie. Oh, here we go. It's gonna get fun. And we finally get the movie that we wanted. We finally get the action. We finally get the violence. We finally get the big payoff with the big baddie boss. And let me talk about the big baddie boss real quick, okay? This movie likes to throw in some supernatural elements, which is totally fine because the first film throws in plenty of supernatural elements. I mean, this is a guy, a spirit of vengeance, who comes back from the dead to avenge his dead fiancée. But there doesn't feel like there's any soul in this movie. So the second act just goes along where, yes, he has the powers of the Crow. He didn't know how to use them. He didn't know how to do anything. Even though he's been given a bit of direction, he was told, hey, follow the Crow. He's going to tell you where to go. And then he proceeds to never follow the Crow throughout the rest of the film. He just kind of goes off on his whole thing. The second act is nothing but Bill Skarsgård getting his ass kicked and a completely useless investigation because the guy tells him, just follow the Crow. And then he's like, nope, you know what? I need to go bust some heads and talk to some people to figure out who these guys are. Oh, why? Why did you waste so much time? This movie does nothing but waste time. And it doesn't waste time in a fun, artsy-fartsy way with cool shots or decent, special effects or some cool surrealist stuff on the screen. No, it wastes our time with brooding emo people, and that's the best way to put it. Just a bunch of tattooed emo folks sitting around brooding and being all bitchy. That is pretty much the core of this movie. Then we finally get to the end. We finally get the action. Not enough. Too little, too late. The villain in this film is weird. There's no payoff. Then nothing ever gets explained. This movie explains nothing about the villains that killed them. They kind of give you an idea of why they did what they did, and that's it. I don't even know who this movie is for, because it's not for fans of the comic book, because there's nothing from the comic book in this. Okay, I take that back. There's one thing that was in the comic book that I always enjoyed, and I always wanted it to be in the original film. There was this really cool scene where he goes to town on some bad guys with a katana, and we kind of get that in this movie. So I'm like, oh, there we go. And here's something else I thought was actually nice. At no given time is Bill Skarsgård's character ever called Eric Draven. He's just called Eric throughout the entire film. So there we go. Okay, there we go. He is not the same character. Don't worry about it. He is Eric, Fitzgerald for all we know. So, did I like anything? All right. Even though the film is completely soulless, there are some very picturesque moments. There's some really great use of scenery. Bill Skarsgård is actually not half bad in this film, but if you want to see him in an actual action film that uses his talents, check out Boy Kills World. Now that is a really fun action film with a lot of fun stylized kills and such, and this movie didn't have any of that. So if you want to see Bill Skarsgård actually in a fun action film, check out Boy Kills World. Just skip this movie. Skip this movie entirely. And I never say that, guys. I always try to find value in something. But I just can't find much value in this film. It just seems like this movie was made because somebody is trying to keep the rights to this goddamn franchise. Alright, guys. Well, that's it. Like I said, this is a totally just let it go. Don't bother. Forget this movie existed. Move on with your lives film. And I mean, seriously, I don't ever say stuff like that. That's how much I dislike this film. Okay, I don't remember if I said this or not, but there was a TV show called The Crow, Stairway to Heaven, and I liked that TV show way more than what I just saw on the screen. In fact, I think I liked Crow City of Angels more than this movie. I might have liked Crow Salvation more than this movie. I'm going to stop right there because I might just be going crazy. Alright guys, well that's all I have for you today. Thanks again for checking out the Film Geek. If you liked what you saw here today, go ahead and subscribe to the channel, ring that bell for notifications, and give me the old thumbs up if you like what you're seeing. And if there's one more thing you can do, folks, that is keep watching movies. You know I'm gonna.